All right, welcome everybody. Well, I'm on the East Coast here, so I think it's a 9:20 Pacific time. It's at 12:20 Eastern Standard Time, and that's where I am. So we're gonna get started in about 60 seconds here. Just waiting for a few more people to be able to kind of transition from that welcome session to this session on assigning and grading with TCI. Again, I'm your host, Matt Mormon. I'm a national account manager at TCI, and I want to hear from you in the chat. So if you could open up the chat, and I want to hear where you're from, where you teach, and what learning management system you use. So like Kevin, thank you. Google Classroom. We've got Google Classroom is our first learning management system that someone has put in. Christy, first year teaching with TCI. That's awesome. You're going to learn a lot about assigning and grading with TCI. And if you guys tell me which learning management system, now don't say student information system. There's a lot of confusion around that. So when I talk about learning management system, I'm talking about Google Classroom, Canvas, that kind of stuff. Like I think Infinite Campus and things like that, Skyward, those would be more of your student information systems, which also talk and things like that. But that's really doesn't really affect the assigning and syncing assignments to LMS too much. Welcome, Rebecca. All right, well, it is time to start. So we are going to get started. A couple housekeeping things. First of all, somebody's from Pinconning. That is awesome. Clint, I went to Bay City Western, so I know the Pinconning area very, very well. So excellent. Welcome to this session. So my name is Matt Mormon. I'm a national account manager with TCI. I've been doing this. I'm starting next week, my 20th year at TCI, so very exciting. Few housekeeping things. Brian went over this in the last session as well, but there should be a Q&A button for questions, although I'm not seeing that on my end. So I am going to ask my co-host to look into that while I continue, because I'm only seeing the chat. So usually we use the chat for interactions like where are you from, what grade do you teach, what learning management system do you use? And then Q&A is used usually as a way to ask us specific questions. Like if I show you something in a few minutes and you have a clarifying question, I have some co-hosts on here that will be able to answer those questions. But I am not seeing oh, there, I have found the Q&A. Somebody put a question in there and that helped it pop up for me. So thanks. So we got Q&A and chat open. So Q&A, kind of think of that like Matt just showed me how to link something to Google. I didn't really understand that. I have a clarifying question. Throw that into the Q&A and you'll get a response from one of my co-hosts. And then if I ask you guys for direct participation in something, that's what we'll use the chat for. So yeah, so anyway, so we are going to get started. So assigning and grading with TCI. We've got some exciting new updates this year. We've got a kind of a new grades page layout that you're going to learn about. And we're going to kind of break down how you would use that. We're going to first talk about how we would assign things. So we're going to look at how we create an assignment in TCI. And then we're going to kind of take a little bit of a sidetrack on that for a minute. And we're going to look at how then you would do that for different learning management systems like Canvas, Schoology, Google, and so forth. And then, of course, we'll look at the new grades page and how we can assess and give our students feedback and how then we can sync those grades if we need to our learning management grade book, like a Google Classroom or something like that. So creating assignments. So if we're going to go live and what I'm going to show you is going to be true for whether you're doing social studies or science, whether you teach secondary, whether you teach elementary, it's going to be the same. I'm probably going to use something from middle school in the middle just to kind of model, but we'll start by tackling just basic assignments. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to open up my eighth grade history program. I taught eighth grade history in Plainwell, Michigan. So shout out to Plainwell if there's anybody here from there. And you'll see that I've got no current assignments that are due. So there's a few different ways you can do this. Okay, so first thing I'll just kind of you can kind of point your attention to here is get my spotlight here. Right here where my spotlight is in the top right hand corner, you'll see a button that says create an assignment. So that is an easy way to get started and just you know, get to the assignment page. So if I click on that, it's going to pop up it's going to remember the last kind of lesson that you were on. So it looks like the last time I was in here, I was on lesson 3, Indigenous Peoples in North America. Maybe that's what lesson we're still on, so I can continue to fill some of the stuff out. Or maybe I want to drop down and change a different unit or a different lesson. All right, we'll come back to this in just a minute. Another way that you can get to assignments is you can go over here to the purple sidebar where my red dot is now, and you'll see that same assignment button. When you click on assignments, you will be able to see any past assignment that you've created. So in this case, I've created 2 assignments that are here. One was due, started on July 7th and was due on the 22nd, and the other one the same. And if I want to get to new assignment, I'm just going to click the green button here that says create new. And that's going to be the same exact screen that we got to from the other place to go to assignment. Now, there is a third way that you can create assignments, and that is from the point of use. So I'm just going to kind of start by showing those 3 ways, and then we'll see how to do it. What do I mean by point of use? Well, let's say, for example, that you were clicking around in the reading and you were looking at this reading section for, I don't know, let's go Life in the Colonies, right? Lesson 6 here, okay? And maybe we're in section 3 and we're reading about the rights of the colonist, right? We're going to read about the Magna Carta and British Parliament and all of that stuff that's going on, right? So you should be able to create an assignment right from here. So right up here in this icon, there is an assignment button right there. When I click on that, that's where my red dot is right now, it will bring me to this same page. That's going to be true if you're assigning slideshows with students or video activities. So now we'll go in real quick and we'll go to lesson overview page. And you will see that I have a video activity and a classroom slideshow. I may want to assign those to my students as well. Again, there's a create an assignment button and it's the same thing. So really 4 different ways that you can create a generic assignment in TCI. All of those are right. It's just we want to make sure you have the easiest and quickest way to do what you need to do. And that's why you see so many. So from the basics, I'm just going to click that assignment and we're going to create one here. So again, like I told you a few minutes ago, it will remember the last lesson you were on. I switched to lesson 6. So now it remembers that I was looking at lesson 6. So it's going to stay there. So we'll stay there. Now, what's the type? What am I assigning? Well, at TCI, you can assign assessments. So if you've created an assessment or if you are using one of our pre-made assessments, you can certainly assign an assessment from here. You can assign one of our games. We have, lots of learning games that are great for formative assessment tools. You can assign the reading, classroom activity slideshow, video activities. That's that new asynchronous video-based lesson. Unit projects. You can assign biography articles, Supreme Court cases, primary sources, articles from the civics library, and maps. So lots of things. But we'll keep it simple. And we'll assign something like a game to start, just to keep it real simple. So game. Now what's the details? Well, there's 3 games in this lesson that I can choose from. This lesson has 3 choices. There's a vocabulary game, there's a states and capital game, and there's a kind of a Jeopardy-like game called Crack the Code. So I'm going to pick the Crack the Code. And you can see the score automatically. Now, who am I assigning this to? You might have multiple class periods. You might only have one class period. If I teach 3rd grade science, I probably have a class of 25 to 28 students, and that's my one class. If I teach 9th grade world history, I might have 5 periods. So I just happen to have one class. So you can see right there. But this would drop down would allow me to check and uncheck the different classes that I don't or do want to assign to. And the same would be true with students. So in this case, Dr. Bert Bauer, maybe I don't want Bert to participate in this assignment. So I'm just going to uncheck Bert and he won't be assigned this. Likewise, we could do the opposite and we could uncheck everybody and only assign Bert. But in this case, I'm going to assign everybody in my class. Now, when do you want this? So you can do it immediately and put a due date. So I'm going to say this assignment's going to be due next week. And I want it due at 10:30 p.m. or whatever. Or you can schedule it for later and you can set that up so that that assignment will be pushed out later. There is an enforced due date option here. What this means is if you leave it blank, it's no big deal. And it's going to tell you when we look at grades in a few minutes, we look at how you can review student work, it will tell you the date and time someone submitted something. So you're going to know it's late. So you don't necessarily have to use that. But if you want to, if you enforce the due date, what that means is it will not let your students turn anything in past that date and time. So that's going to be up to you. But if you want to accept late work and know that it's late, you want to leave that unchecked. And then optional down here, this is optional. If you want to create a special name or you want to have different directions, like please complete this and send me any questions. You have whatever directions you want, you would put that in there, and then you just click assign. Okay, so now if we refresh here and reload, we should see a current assignment show up there, and there's crack the code, and the students would come here and they would see that assignment, they would go there, and they would be able to do it. All right, now one thing I want to tell you a little different, I want to make sure we clear this up, is we're going to do one more type of assignment before we go into the LMS. I'm going to create a new assignment here again. And this is around the reading and the reading notes. And the reason why I want to point this out is because this can sometimes be a pain point of confusion. When you assign something like, I'm going to go in here and do lesson 4 here, and I'm going to do the reading this time. Now you've got a lot of choices in the reading. So I selected reading this time, and a whole new menu popped up. Well, do I want to assign just the introduction, or do I want to assign the introduction section 1, section 2, section 3, and make that all one big assignment? And then with that, there are things like reading notes from our digital interactive notebook, or the reading check, which is a comprehension kind of formative assessment that's self-grading. There is a reading check and a reading note section for each of these sections. There won't always be one, as you can see, like down here, there's not a reading check. So you can decide, like maybe I don't want my students to do any of the reading checks, or maybe I only want them to do the reading notes for the introduction. So that's where you have an awful lot of choice in there. So I'm just going to assign section 1 with the reading check and the introduction with the reading check. Okay, now I'm going to show you what I'm assigning here. And again, all classes, all students will make this due next week as well. And bam, I'm just going to assign that really quickly. So now we'll go back over here. We'll go to assignments in here and we'll see that introduction and section right there that I just assigned. So if what I'm basically asking my students to do in this section is I'm asking them to read this section, answer this question, and then answer their preview right in here. And so then they would just type in here. I'm just going to put a bunch of gibberish right now in there, right? And that would auto save and go to your grade book, which we're going to look at in just a minute. But there's another way. Some teachers like to assign the reading notes tied with the reading, and some teachers like to assign the classroom activity slideshow. Let's go back and look at that classroom activity slideshow real quick and just clear this up. So here's the classroom activity slideshow. Many of you have used this. If you're new to TCI, this is going to be the most important resource that you have. You'll use this every day. This is a step-by-step slide deck that will take you and your students through every aspect of teaching the lesson. So here's the preview, and here's that gibberish I just wrote because it transfers. So this essentially is the exact same thing that we're asking our students to do with that last assignment, which was to go in here and read this section and do this preview assignment. This preview assignment lives in section 1, and then in the presentation, it's here by itself. You could assign this slide deck and this slide to students, and they can type right in here and it will do the same thing. In fact, anything I type in one automatically puts it in the other. So when you go to assign reading and reading notes for classroom activities, you will have to decide, are you going to assign the slides and do you want your students to answer questions in the interactive notebook through the slideshow, or do you want your students, let's go to one new section here, or do you want your students to come in and do the reading notes like this, like in a complete sentence, describe how Spain established territorial claims, and I can type my answer right there. So you'll have the choice, and that sometimes can confuse people, but it's nice to have the option to do either way. Okay, so that is kind of how you do a basic assignment. Now, I want to take it up a notch and kind of show you a little bit about the different types of assignments that you can create and grade syncing with your different LMS. So we'll go in and let's look at Google Classroom first. Now, I have my Google Classroom tab up here. It doesn't look like I have any assignments in here. No, I don't have any assignments in here right now. Google Classroom is a little bit different than the other learning management systems, and that's why I'm going to start with this one. This is the one learning management system, if you use Google Classroom, that you will still create the assignment in TCI. The other two, you actually don't go to TCI to do it. You go and create the assignments from Canvas or Schoology. But the first thing I have to do is I have to make sure that I am synced up into Google Classroom. So very quickly, I'll just go to my settings. And there's a great in our in-app professional development, which I'll be talking about a little bit at the end. There's a really cool tutorial, quick video that shows you how to do this. But I'm gonna go down here to integrations in my settings, and the first thing I need to do is give Google permission to talk to my TCI account, which I'm doing right now. And then I will go into my classes very quickly, and I will just make sure that I've got that Google icon there that shows that I'm synced. And then, of course, if I want to, I need to disconnect. I want to make sure I'm going to be in the right class here. Let me make sure I'm going to connect to the right Google Classroom class. And I think I said HS History Period 1. So, actually, to make it simple, I think I'll use government just because I'll know that I think I only have one government class because I can't tell which period. So I'm going to put it in government just to be, oh, that's archive. Never mind. I'll do seventh grade world history is the one I'm going to put this in. Okay. So I just linked my class to seventh grade world history. And then the third and final thing is syncing your students. Go to manage students. I do an auto match here, hit auto match and next, and it will match all my students and pull them all in for that. All right, now back to assignments. So let's go and let's make sure I'm in the right one. I think I did seventh grade world history, I believe, is the one I picked.
That's right.
Go in here, go to class work, don't have anything current new, and I'm going to create an assignment. Now, this time I'm going to do the assignment the same way, right? So let's go toward independence. Let's assign a reading. Let's assign the introduction only. We'll make this due on Monday. And I'm just going to hit assign. And if this worked correctly, I should see my Google icon. So my Google icon is there because there's the assignment right there. There's the introduction. It's Unit 3, Lesson 7. That Google icon next to that assignment means that my assignment correctly went into Google Classroom. And of course, we'll go here and reload and we will see the class work. It takes a few minutes, but then that will show up and it will be there. So we'll come back and look at that in a minute. I want to switch gears now for a second and go to another one. Let's go into Schoology. Now in Schoology, and I'm going to have to sign in real quick to Schoology because I want to make sure that I'm signed in. You can sign in to TCI right from Schoology, and I'm going to go to Materials, and you go to Materials to add the assignment. So unlike Google Classroom, in Schoology, you are going to need to go to Schoology like I am right now and create the assignment from TCI that way. So what happens is you go to Materials, you go to Add Materials, and I'm going to click my Teach TCI icon. And then, of course, I have different programs. So I'm going to use TCI American, Pursuing American Ideals here. And let's do lesson 6, the Constitution. What am I assigning? Again, maybe I want to assign the classroom activity this time. Okay. And I'm assigning this classroom activity slideshow. And I can assign the whole thing to my students or just the preview, maybe. I just want to only assign the preview. Okay. And I can give that a due date. I'll say that's due tomorrow. And we can click assign. And then you will see that assignment right there. I can come in here, I can edit it, I can unpublish it, I can delete it. But the bottom line is my students will be able to come here right in Schoology. They will be able to sign in and they will be able to click that and it will open that assignment right up in Schoology. So I'm still technically in TCI, but framed around Schoology right now. Okay. So that is how that works. I'm going to stop for just a second and just check in with Natalie and Brian, my co-presenters, and see how we're doing on questions. Is there anything Brian and Natalie, that I've talked about so far that we should kind of address, or should we just keep on moving?
I don't see students access through Schoology, but will it also appear on TCI or not? I
Yes. So
question
that's
from
the nice,
Carol.
cool. That's a great question, Carol. So what happens is if you assign something in Google Classroom, you assign it in TCI and it puts it in TCI and it puts it in Google Classroom. But if you assign it in Schoology, it obviously puts it into Schoology, but then it will show up on the TCI side as well. And the same is going to be true for Canvas, which we are going to next. So now we're going to move over here to Canvas. Okay, and you can see that I've got some stuff in here for Canvas. So let me make sure again that I'm signed in first because I think I was signed into to Schoology for a minute there. And then here, what you would do is you would go to assignments in your Canvas icon over here and you would create new. And there's a couple extra steps that you have to take, but right here you can type an assignment name. So I might say lesson 23 preview. You can give some different information here. And then you need to look for this thing that's called submission type down here where it says external tool. And you will click the external tool and you're looking for Teach TCI LTI 1.3. You'll go ahead and click on that, and then that will allow you to pull up the things that you want to assign. So I'm gonna, I think I creating the Constitution, yeah. And again, we have lots of choices here: reading, games, classroom activity. I'll do a video activity this time, and I want to assign the video activity, and I'm gonna make this due on Tuesday, and I'm gonna click assign. And then one more time, you're gonna, as soon as you assign it, it's not quite live yet, almost, but then you'll have this highlighted, you just click select, and then down here, you can either save it or save and publish. Save and publish obviously publishes it so that it's live for your students. And then they will be able to come in here and see that video activity. There it is. And they're going through the activity right in Canvas. So that is the basics of how you create an assignment. And again, I'm going to be showing you some PD stuff at the end of this so that you can see, but I want to get into the grading now. So like what happens when we grade? So, well, the first thing I need to do here is I need to sign out and sign back in again because I signed out with Canvas in Schoology. So I'm back in here and you'll see, so all of those assignments that I've been creating are now showing up here, but now I have some student work. It looks like here under the student work section that someone has turned something in. So I can click needs review and it will take me right there. So I can go to my class. Or again, there's more than one way to get there. I could simply just go over to the grade section and click my grades. And then, of course, you have which class you're grading. I'm grading my first period class here, and which lesson or unit. You can bounce around. So in this case, I need to be grading lesson 3, which is Indigenous Peoples. And you can see I've got some grades in here already. So you can go in, I could go into like Bert Bauer here in his introduction, and I can see exactly what he did. So this was Bert doing a question here that was auto graded, and you can see what Bert selected and what the correct answer is. And then, of course, it's auto graded, so it gave Bert a 2 out of 3 already for that. And then if I wanted to give a comment, I certainly could. I could say, "Hey Bert." Whoops. If I could type, I could say, "Hey Bert." And then I could ask him for something. Please, and then be sure to study or whatever, like whatever he's going to do, right? Whatever I'm telling him. I could add a stamp. Maybe I want to say, it's incorrect or try again or something. Maybe I have a question, whatever. And then, of course, this is one that I can see here on the preview. I can see carefully examine this image and it says Bert has not answered that. Okay, so we'll show you what to do with that in just a second. So let me go back to my grades here and let's look at something that I haven't graded. So these have grades in them already, but I've assigned this section 1 routes of early exploration here. So I'm going to drill into the first one. I'll pick on Bert again. Why not? We pick on Bert. We can do that. We'll go in here and it's going to show that section 1 assignment that I have here. I'm going to click on this little arrow here, which drops down and I can see my answer key and I can see what Bert has. And Bert has done a great job. I could come in here and I could either just give him full credit, which it's worth 1 point, or I could, do something else, but I'm going to give him full credit for that by simply just giving the check on that. And then down here, Bert was supposed to draw a simple illustration of Beringia, the land bridge between Russia and ancient land bridge between North America and Asia. So I can drill down here, and Bert just kind of put a clip art bridge there to represent land bridge, I guess. So maybe I want to give him, credit or not credit for that. Down here, I can see Bert's question three answer. I can see Bert's question four answer. But maybe that's tedious. Maybe I'm going and I'm grading like one student at a time. And it's kind of, I don't want to do it that way. So there's a couple other options that I have. One way that I could grade this is I can grade. So right now you'll see in my filters, check the filters area out right up in here. I lost my red dot. Let me see if I can get my red dot back for you. Like right up in here where my red dot is, there's this filter area. So what am I grading? I'm grading my first hour period. I'm grading Bert, and I'm viewing by student. So I'm only seeing what Bert has done. And I'm grading all of his questions. So you can change these filters. The one filter that I like to change is I'm going to grade by question. And then it's going to ask me, well, what question do you want to grade? Well, I want to see everybody's representation of what that land bridge looks like, let's say. So now I can not only see Bert's answer here, but I can see Taylor's. We can drill in and see what Taylor has done. We can see what Natasha Martin did. We can see that Kelsey Moore did not do the assignment. So maybe I want to quick give an X to give no credit for Kelsey. Deanna looks partial. Ron did a great job. I'm like, I look at Ron's. I'm like, wow, that was a really good job, Ron. Very detailed. Another no answer. So you could very quickly give quick full credit or no credit, or you can manually type the answers in. But my favorite option, and the last thing I'm going to show you kind of here with around grading, is the bulk grading. So if I click bulk grading, now I have an opportunity to look at just the answered. So all of the answered ones, I might say, because this is a preview assignment, so it's kind of like their anticipatory set on an assignment like this. I'm going to give everybody that answered it 1 point, and I'm going to click bulk grade. And then, wait for this, I'm going to click bulk grade again, and I'm going to search everybody that didn't answer, the unanswered, and I'm going to very quickly give those students a 0 for that. And let's go back out into my grade book now. So I'm going to click grades. And let's see how that worked. That went in there. Oh, well, I just graded that one. So that was one question. So that's a really important thing. So in that assignment, because we're grading by assignment, I bulk graded one question. So what I probably should have done then is now what I'm going to do is that was the drawing of the simple. So now I need to go to the next question. The next question is right here, and I can see everybody's answer. They typed this in. And I can, again, I can add a stamp or a comment. I can give quick credit, no credit. I can do bulk grading, answered 1 point if I want to do it that way. And then, of course, you can manually override things too. So after I've just given somebody, if I want to go back in and look, and so Bert got a point, but now I read his answer and I'm just not so sure about it. So maybe I want to go back and give Bert a 0 on that. Okay. Um, so that's how the grading works. Ryan, any questions coming up on the grading? I know we're just about out of time, I believe. Wait, we go till maybe we're not out of time. I gotta
Yeah, no, you're good on time right now. Second period doesn't start until 1:10.
110. So I have 10 more
1:10
minutes,
Eastern.
right?
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Because we give him a 5 or a 10 minute passing period. I forget.
I think we give him I think we give him 5 to 10.
Five.
I think
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Um
Any other,
so
so this is a good time to pause before I go into the next thing. What questions so far, if anything, that hasn't been answered in the chat that I can show live? Is there anything I can answer live?
George asks, maybe this will be addressed later, but when my students open TCI, they see all their assignments, even the ones they have turned in. Is there a way that I can turn that off? My SPED students get confused when they see 30 assignments.
Yes, and I think I understand the issue here. I'm wondering if that is the older grading system. I believe in the older grading system, the way it worked is there was a big long grade book and there was like assignments for everything. So if that's not what you're talking about, we can readdress this. But in the settings, there is one thing that I have done under opt-in features, and I could opt out right now, but I am opted in right now to this new grades page experience where it will only show your students an assignment that you have created. It will not show things that have not been created. So if you, in the old way, if you were to assign, let's say the reading for section one, it might show the reading check for section two, section three, section four, section five in like a spreadsheet grade book. And that's confusing. And that's part of the reason why we did this. So you have to opt in to the new grade. Now, if you're an existing TCI user, new teachers who are brand new to the program, you are automatically opted into the program. And then if you still like the old grades page a little bit better, you have this year, this school year, to continue to choose between the two. However, we are going to sunset and retire the original grading method page on June 30th of 2027. So that might address what you're talking about. The other thing that I can think about there that might be part of the issue is you can see up here, and I'll sign in from us as a student real quick. So let's go in and see what one of my students sees real fast. And this is another trick that you might not know. So when you're in your grade book or anywhere where you have students, if you hover over a student, you'll see a little key next to their name whenever you hover your cursor over that. And from there, you can actually impersonate and sign in as that student. So I'm signing in as Kelsey right now. And you can see that Kelsey has a to-do section. She should only see the things that she has to do still. Now, if she's completed those things, they won't be there, but then she should be able to go to assignments here and see anything upcoming. And then anything that's overdue, Kelsey doesn't have any overdue assignments. But then if she wanted to go back and see some assignments that she has completed already, she can do that there and see those completed ones. Is that are those two things? Because that's how I interpreted the question, but I just want to make sure I understood it correctly. So yeah, if that's an issue, let us know. Any other, Natalie or Brian, any other questions in chat that can be answered live at this point?
We did have someone that had asked, can you, someone asked, are you able to lock an assessment on a Chromebook? And I did respond in chat, Jamie, but maybe Matt, you can show them how we're able to lock the assignment so that students have
Yeah.
to complete the assignment. But I just think it's really important that folks understand we're not locking their screen or their device. It's literally just access in TCI.
Yep. Yeah, we don't have the capability. Like I'm in TCI right now, right? And as you can see, I have some other tabs up here where I've created some tabs for like Schoology and Canvas and stuff like that. There is really no way when a student is sitting here at TCI to keep them from opening a new tab and going to ChatGTP or Google or whatever. I know that there is a space in education tech for that. Just from my own kids going through school, they used something called Go Guardian at their school that teachers were able to lock down browsers and stuff like that. But we have control over our application. So you can do some things in the settings. And actually, I feel like the settings area in TCI doesn't get enough love because there's just so many great things that teachers have control over here that a lot of people miss or don't realize. So one of the setting features that I was showing you a minute ago was opt in. How can we opt into teacher pace mode? How can we opt into the new grades experience? And then as far as like student features go, you'll see here, or actually it can be student access, sorry, under student access, you'll see this area here under assessment access, right? And there's what's called open book test and assessment results. So if I wanted my students to be able to still access the TCI reading, any notes that they took from their digital and interactive notebook or anything like that, I would have to have this checked and hit update. And then when I put an assessment out, then my students theoretically could toggle back and forth and go back and read and go back and look at their notes. But if this is not checked off and I do assign an assessment to my students, then once that assessment is assigned and live, the students are locked out of everything else in TCI that they could go to. Like they won't be able to go to their reading, they won't be able to go to the vocabulary maps and stuff like that. They can't see those things. Um, that's how you would do that. So you can lock them down here during an assessment, but there's no real reason or way that we can totally lock them out of their browser. While we're on this little area here too, assessment results, if that's checked off as soon as your students complete an assessment, they will instantly see the results that they did. If you don't want them to do that and you don't want your fifth hour to have 100% on the test, every single kid at fifth hour, then don't let them see the results. Like make them go old school, right? Like wait for everybody to turn in the assessment, just like we had to do when I was in school, and then come back here, click assessment results and update, and then the students can see exactly how they did, item analysis. Then the next time you're given an assessment, come back to settings, uncheck that, hit update. It's kind of something that you'll probably do back and forth to give students access that way. But
Hey,
yeah,
Matt,
yes,
Jason asked a question that I think probably should be addressed because I think it not only applies to Canvas, but I think I think it does to Schoology as well.
yeah,
Is it possible to make the assignment worth different points in Canvas than what TCI is allotted?
yes. And I'm gonna talk about that, but I mean, to when you go into like Canvas one, you should be able to go into assignments here, and you should be able to go in and edit and change the assignment and change like the amount of points it is, and then it'll just transfer it over. So you can go in. Now, if it's an assignment that already is like it's just a one question auto graded assignment in TCI for 1 point, I don't know. I have to ask maybe Natalie if you can override and make that auto graded assignment worth more. But if it's not auto graded, if it's like open ended, you have control over how many points you want to make it.
Yeah, just jumping in, if the questions are auto-graded or the assignment is fully auto-graded, it will automatically transfer over to your LMS and make the conversion to the points that you've put in the assignment.
It makes the conversion.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, awesome. One other thing on the settings, real quick, before we wrap up. Notice how on content access, now this is all part of student access, it says prior to an assignment, students can view. If you have not come in here, if you come in here and all of these things are lit up with check marks, your students will be able to go and play games, look at slideshows, look at the reading, do auto-graded assignments, even if you haven't assigned it. And that might create a nightmare for you. You might not want students going ahead. So for my classroom, I do not want my students to have access to the unit project until I assign it. I don't want them to have access to the slideshow. I don't mind the text. If they want to read, go for it. Read chapter 17 on the first day of school. Knock yourself out. I don't want them to have reading check or reading notes or lesson games. So I keep mine like this. And what that would look like for a student, just so you know, is we'll go back in here real quick. I know I only have a few minutes, I think. I'll impersonate Deanna here. Whoops, I didn't mean to click off of that. So, so here's Deanna. She's going into her class with me. She's got some assignments that she can get into. She can go to crack the code. She can go to the reading introduction and stuff. But Deanna's messing around and she's going to like unit 8, right? She's in unit 8 and she wants to learn about the Civil War. So because I kept it on here for the reading, she can go in here and click on the reading and she can read about the Civil War. But look at this, the reading check and the notes, it tells Deanna, you cannot view this because it has not been assigned. Had I not done that in the settings, then um, Deanna would have been able to see the reading check, which is an automated grade. She could have done it even if I didn't ask her to do it. And that might create some problems later because maybe she didn't do so well and I didn't really want that grade to be in the grade book at the time. So that would be just, kind of something to look out for. Um, so that that doesn't happen to you guys, right? You don't want that to happen. All right. I've got a few more minutes here. I believe we go for about 10 more minutes. So let's go in. So grading, we did grading kind of live. Oh, I don't want to do professional development yet, just yet. Let's talk about syncing for a minute. Your grades should automatically sync. So when you go in, and I'm gonna, I've got the grade here. So let's say I'm gonna go in to this one, and I want to give, no credit there. Here I'm going to give credit. Here I'm going to give a point. Here I'm going to give a point. So I'm going to say, okay, that's great. And then maybe I want to go to my next student. So I just click next student, go to Stephanie. Let's see how Stephanie did. I'm going to give Stephanie credit for that. I already bulk graded that. Going to give credit for that. You can kind of go in here and see how I'm just kind of going through each student very quickly. This is the way you kind of grade like one at a time, right? If you're just going, credit or didn't do well on that one, gonna no credit on that one. All right. And then I'm gonna go back to my grades page here, go back up here. Should see those grades in there. Okay, so there's those grades. If you're linked to any of your LMSs with your students, then that's part of the integration that syncs those. So when I put those grades in there, they will automatically transfer to Google, to Canvas. And then there is you can see sync status. So you can see the last sync. I don't have my sync on, but I could show the sync status on and turn that in. Now, unfortunately, I can't totally model this part as well because these are uh, fake accounts that I have in here that aren't actually tied to listeners Canvas or tied to Schoology or whatever. But that will go in there. You would be able to go into your coursework and see the grades, and you would be able to see your grade book. It just automatically imports right here, and whatever you put in TCI will automatically transfer there. And then, of course, I think you can, Natalie, is it correct that you can now push the sync? If it doesn't happen, you can go back. Is that what that is? Where you can
Yes.
click that sync and kind of force the sync, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, cool. All right. Last thing real quick, and that's I want to plug this because this is, a lot of information and it might take a couple times to retain kind of how all of this works. So I do want to plug very quickly here at the end of this in-app professional development. You may recognize that gentleman there that's kind of blocked out on my screen as Brian, and Brian has been fielding questions for me. Brian, you met him in your introduction session this morning. Um, In-app professional development lives right inside TCI, and you can get support with that way anytime you want. So I'm going to kind of go back over here, and you'll see right here in the top this professional development area. When a teacher clicks on that, they're going to see a couple sections. This first section up here is the planning area. If you're new to our professional development, it's built into the app. This is kind of like an overview. Brian put together a minute and a half video overview to welcome you, kind of let you know what you can expect. It's kind of cool. You really do three things. You watch a short video, you then explore and practice a couple things on your own, and then you kind of answer a few exit slips to kind of move on. For those of you who have seen our video activities already, um, and if used our video activities, you can thank the video activities really for this. We were developing video activities and kind of we were like, we could make video activities for the teachers, showing them and supporting them on using our platform. So right below, you'll see the course menu. You've got a foundations area where you can learn how to navigate and plan. Then there is an entire course on what I just showed you today, assign and grade. And then what's new fall. Now, I believe, and Brian can tell me a little bit more, but I think in the next coming weeks, this will probably change to what's new fall of 2026. At least it has in the last couple of years, it's done that. And then you will see LMS integrations down here. Now, since we did talk a little bit about LMS integrations today, you saw that Google allows the teacher to set that up on their own. Okay. The teacher goes into settings, goes into learning management. They do that three quick step that I showed you. You probably like, well, what? How did you do that again? That was like fast. This course right here, it will take you a few minutes. There will be a step-by-step video that will show you exactly what you need in order to set up Google. Likewise, the courses for Schoology and Canvas do the same thing. The only difference is if you want to use Canvas and Schoology, your main school administrator, your IT or your curriculum director person, on their end, they have to set that up for you. They have to set up the integration to Schoology. That is not something that the individual teacher can set up like it is with Google. And that's just a limitation of the way the different learning management systems integrate. But if you take these courses, they will show you exactly how the grades will sync and how you can set up and change scores. It probably take you 25 to 30 minutes to go through one of those courses. So they're not real long. In fact, I can really quickly show you how the integrating to Schoology works real fast. Just kind of, we have a minute here. So you can just kind of click get started. Again, Brian's going to welcome you here. This is a little 20-minute, 20-second, excuse me, video with Brian just introducing himself, telling you what you're going to do. And so he's got it set up into three basic, like how do you connect to Schoology? How do you assign and grade? How do you share in Schoology? So right here, you'd see Brian introduce this, and then the next video, we'll watch it for a second
As
here.
we go ahead and get started on our path to integrating Schoology and TCI,
I'm going to actually talk over Brian, so I just muted him, but I'm going to let that video play for a minute. You can see that that video is counting down over here. There's only 3 minutes left. So this is a very short, bite-sized chunk that you can go into, and he's going to show you. He's talking right now, so I muted, and he's zoomed in on something he wants. But you're going to watch this 3-minute video, and I'm going to fast forward through a few things. Brian's showing you exactly what you need to do. He's showing you what I showed you, how you add the materials, how you go in there and do that. And then you get a chance to practice. And then after you've watched that and practiced, you click the answer questions and you've got a quick little exit slip, and then you can move on to the next challenge, which in this case would be assigning and grading. So my thought is, I mean, if you got a lot out of this, this is a great, first starter for assigning and grading. If you wanted to learn more about assigning and grading, take the Assign and Grade 2.0 course. That's just if you're going to assign and grade. If you want to do all of those things, assign and grade with a learning management system, then you don't necessarily need to take this course. You just kind of move down into these ones, and then you can learn how to assign and grade from the vantage point of the particular LMS that you're using. We've got other courses in here too, time saving tips. In fact, there's one down here called Being a TCI Coach, and that is one of the last things I'm going to talk to you about real quick is becoming a coach with TCI. If that is something that is interesting to you and you would like to support your staff by being kind of a boots on the ground support person for TCI in your district, there is a QR code there. You can scan that. I'll leave that up here for a second, and you can learn what you need to do. And there's even a course that will support you on being a coach. And I'll put this back up in a minute if you don't get a chance to get the QR code just yet. All right, so we're here to support you every step of the way. We've got that professional development. Please, if you have not done so, please join our Facebook group. We have a lot of users. We have a lot of updates and things that come up, throughout the year. You can, obviously follow us on different socials as well, like Instagram. So check that out. Real quick reflection, because we only have about a minute and then I have to excuse you guys to go to your next session. In the chat, just give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, just to kind of represent where you're feeling based on what you learned here. So that would be awesome. I love it. I love it. Love to see it. Thank you so much. And then I'll give everybody an opportunity just to put that in there very quickly. And then one last thing as we go through our last minute, there's the becoming a coach. Again, I'll put this back up in just a second, but I do want to plug this. Stay engaged today. You've got 2 more sessions. If you are on social media, you can be sharing things out. We're going to draw winners. We've got, gift cards and things like that we're going to be drawing from. So be engaged, be part of our social media. We want you to share your favorite session today. Use the hashtag if you're using X or whatever, TCI Summit 26. And again, all of this increases your chances to win one of those gift cards if you do that. All right, so next session is going to start in about 5 minutes, I think. So again, you go back out to the lobby and join the session that you were in. And I thank everybody so much. This was great, and you guys have a great rest of your summer. And get rejuvenated, and we'll see you back when school starts. And well, I'm going to stay on in case there's some other questions, but I will have that QR code put up for you if you wanted to get that coach thing. Thank you, everybody.